Joey Janela recently had an interview with a person whose name I'm trying to find on the fly here. Denise, oh God, I'm going to botch this name.
Salcedo.
Salcedo, thank you. I got to bone up on my Spanish. Uh, so he had an interview with her, and he was discussing his departure from AEW. Now, he did have a lot of very good things to say about AEW. He's very thankful for his time there. He considers him and Tony Khan friends, and he had nothing but nice things to say about Tony as well. He mentioned his future is going to be building up GCW and helping young wrestlers get prepared for places like AEW and WWE. But there were a couple of interesting dissenting notes, I'll call them, that came out of this interview. So the first one I'll talk about here is he mentioned that towards the end of his tenure in AEW, he was having a match with Eddie Kingston and accidentally super kicked him in the face, resulting in Eddie's broken orbital bone, which I think was mentioned on air a couple of times. That in turn delayed his feud with Jericho. And Kingston mentioned in the interview that he thought he had gotten a bit of backstage heat for that. Pro Wrestling Insider, I should have just said PWI, but they checked with their AEW sources and they confirmed that it was indeed the straw that broke the camel's back, as Joey said, and that there had been an internal belief that he had injured many talents that he had wrestled there. So we'll start there. James, what do you think about Joey's departure from AEW and what he mentioned about his future with GCW, but also what do you think about him not only admitting that he got heat for injuring Eddie, but him kind of, I guess he owned up to it in a way. Please expound.
I think everything about Joey's exit, at least on his end, has seemed very professional. No sour grapes, really. This is just a guy who is no longer working at a company. None of this is all that surprising, unfortunately. Joey started really hot with AEW. He was in some big feuds. He was in some big matches. And he entertained. But as time went on, we were seeing him less and less on the main shows. And we were seeing him more on Dark or Dark Elevation. And the last year, I'd say, has been almost exclusively Dark. He had a great feud with Sonny Kiss, his former tag team partner. But again, all of that basically just ended up on Dark, even though those were stories that started on Dynamite. I never want to see anybody lose their job, but Joey Janela definitely seems like the type of person who isn't going to let this tear him down. He's going to figure out a way to build himself up. He essentially said, and in his own words, he tried to make this seem as much of a positive as possible. He's taking the last 3 years of his time in AEW as sort of the developmental for the rest of his career. He thinks he's become a better wrestler during his time in AEW. He thinks he's become a better businessman thanks to his time in AEW. And I think GCW is probably going to be a better fit for him. I hope that maybe one day the door is open for him to come back, if both sides want that. And he mentioned some interesting things about how AEW handles people on their way out. He mentioned the radio silence of it all, that if you're not being used or if it looks like you're on your way out, you don't really hear from AEW. That's not the greatest thing we want to hear. You know, we want to believe that even if people are on their way out, they're being treated professionally. And who knows, maybe it was just a formality how much longer he was there. But that is somewhat unfortunate.
Yeah, he did mention that that also happened to Marco Stunt, that there was radio silence, as you said, with Marco as well. And then he said, you know, he would think Christopher Daniels, since he's one of the heads of talent relations, like he would think Christopher Daniels would want to call him, but it seemed like the company was not letting him, so to speak. So I don't know what's going on there. That kind of, I think that's one of the shittier things we've heard out of AEW in terms of the way they're running things backstage, because for the most part, it's been fairly positive.
No, definitely. And I the one thing I do have to say about this is it doesn't feel like Janela, like I don't want to compare it to other people, but going back to Big Swole's interview after she was not let go, but after her contract ran out, it very much felt like Swole was trying to get as many eyes on all the criticism she could lay out to AEW. Some justifiable, some, maybe a little bit of a stretch. But here with Joey, it just felt matter of fact. So to me, that makes it sound a little more, I don't want to say credible because I don't think Swole wasn't credible, but it feels like a correction that needs to be made and not someone's personal gripe.
Yeah, that actually makes a lot of sense. Like if this is an oversight that's happening, or even if this is the way they just want to handle business, either way, that is something that needs to be fixed, as opposed to, as you said, what Big Swole was saying. Danny, I mean, I would imagine you have to agree with that.
I agree with James. Yeah, I always agree with James. So, I mean, I think it's a rare case of, I don't want to say AEW like dropping the ball, but I mean, in a way, because Joey, I'm not like a big Joey Janela fan, honestly, but he was someone with a lot of hype around him around the time AEW first started, and he was putting on his own shows and they were pretty popular. And, it just seemed like someone who would be featured more regularly. And, he kind of just completely dropped off the face of the earth. And yeah, I know he wrestled on Dark and everything, but that's not a real place. That doesn't exist. But
I'm not gonna lie. When I went to, I think it was the show in the Prudential Center the week before Grand Slam, they had one of the Joey and Sonny matches, and it was one of the better matches I saw that night. So it was a shame that got relegated to Dark. Those were good.
Yeah, I was actually into that team when it first started. There was a lot of interest there, but yeah, it's just weird. It's just one of those people, like, you just don't expect that to have been Joey Janela's like career path in AEW, but that's just how it turned out. But yeah, as far as everything else, yeah, they got to work on that from how the talent relations perspective. It's okay to not renew these people's contracts, but like, don't ghost them, like, come on, Tony Khan, maybe you're not better than that, but you seem better than that. I don't know. Tony Khan's weird. He's like one of us in a lot of ways, but then he's also like not in a good amount of ways too. And I feel like this is one of those times. It's like, what are you doing, man?
I feel that we've seen a lot lately. And again, I don't want to crap on Tony, but he does not handle confrontation well.
Yeah,
he
absolutely.
either tries to avoid it entirely in ways that's probably just not okay or professional, or he gets kind of defensive. And again, not the best from the billionaire owner, but
that's why you have a go. That's why you have a go-between. Like that you hire people to do that for you if you're not good at it. I don't know. There just seems like such a disconnect there. Where like I think it'd be pretty easy to go to somebody with 3-6 months left on their contract and be like, hey, look, like we don't think we're gonna bring you back at the end of the contract. Just so they can even go and like get their affairs in order and start booking dates for when they like get out of their contract.
I mean, admittedly, that's not really a problem with AEW wrestlers because they get to work the indies even under contract.
That's fair, but like you just got to leave. You still got to give them a heads up. Maybe they'll book more because they don't have that paycheck coming in anymore.
Maybe
you gotta
they'll save some money. Maybe they'll think about what they're gonna, their purchases or whatever they're gonna spend their money on, knowing that they're about to lose in income.
Yeah, just being in limbo there just seems like kind of a dick move. Or leaving them in limbo there, it seems like kind of a dick move.
Yeah, and it's not like, I feel like, it kind of got lost in between when we recorded last week's episode and, when it came out. But it's weird. I feel a little bad for Joey Janela here, but with like Chavo Guerrero, I think Chavo Guerrero's an asshole in that situation
Yeah, no,
still
I agree.
somehow.
Chavo, again, I mentioned like this sounds like a professional criticism versus a personal gripe. Everything Chavo is saying just sounds like a personal, why didn't they talk to me kind of thing.
And even
like,
what you said about Tony, where like Tony was kind of those one were like he didn't want that confrontation, whereas like a big swole, or I remember once in a scrum, I think it was a female interviewer asked about the lack of women's matches, and he got super. He literally cut her off and was like, I almost pulled like a fucking Kanye. I was like, I'm sorry to cut you off, but like, he's like, well, we actually have this, and this, and it's like, are you mansplaining women's wrestling to a women's reporter who's asking you about your lack of women's wrestling? Like, it was, whereas like the Chavo one he handled it was like, he's like, oh, it's weird. I really like Chavo. Like, he's like, I had one missed call from him. So I think it kind of ties into both your points where it's like, there's two sides of Tony handling these situations. And I think the way he handled the Chavo one's a lot better than, how he's handled other ones, and I'm sure he'll handle this one fine.